And good morning again. I'm Jermaine Clark. I work with Sherweb Lucas, and I'm a subject matter expert on AI. And it's kind of funny to have to say that because it's pretty brand new, and in order for me to be a subject matter expert, I only need to know at least one more thing than you do, which is pretty easy, right? Yeah, good. I like that side of the room already. I'm going to stand over there. So look, a quick introduction about myself and how I ended up here. If we take maybe 2 or 3 minutes so you understand who's presenting to you and the types of questions you can ask. So I used to work for an MSP, much like part of Manning's business as well, supporting other organizations. One of the orgs that I supported was called the OFIC. Does anybody know who that is? The Ontario Federation of Indigenous Friendship Centers. So actually, we got in here and I got hit with a familiar odor when I walked in, and I was like, oh, it's that time of the morning. Great. Everybody's already in office. You know, we've had our ceremonies. We're off to work. I'm also a biologist, research biologist. I spent 12 years as a scientist being published and doing research actively in South America. And wouldn't you believe it, 80% of the work that I did with the indigenous communities of South America. So I'm part Amerindian, is what we call ourselves out there. And we've got 8 tribes out there, all speaking their own languages as well. I speak none of them because clearly I don't blend in easily in the Amerindian community. But I did spend a lot of time around fires in the wilderness, drinking questionable things out of calabashes, which are plant bowls. So we get bowls from trees. We slice them in half. They actually crack themselves down the middle. And we use them as bowls. We use them on ornate decorations, things like that. So I spent a lot of time doing that. And then I got into IT I'd say now about 12 years ago. So now I'm aging myself. You know, back away a little bit. But about 12 years ago, I got into IT. And I got into it because I'd immigrated to Canada and I needed a job, and there wasn't a whole lot of conservation of animals and wetlands to deal with in Canada. So I said, you know what, well, I'll do whatever job I get, and did the whole immigrant thing, and here we are. I ended up in an MSP. Had no idea what it was at the time, and what I did know how to do though was research, because I'm a scientist, so I figured out how to learn stuff. So I spent the first, I would say, 6 months working at the MSP, and I did about 3,500 hours of training. Because if you want to figure stuff out, you got to read papers. You got to read papers about the papers you just read. And then when you're done, you go talk to a few people and get their take on the technology and what you're doing. And then once all of that was done, I was like, great, now what do I do? I know what a server is. I understand a computer now. I know how to get printers working. By the way, they will never work effectively. You will always have printer problems. Just so you know, they're built to not function effectively, just so you're aware, especially the wireless ones. Just telling you right now, so don't waste your time. There's no such thing as no more printer issues. Then when you're done with that, see, I know what I'm talking about, right? I'm a subject matter expert. Then I spent a lot of time with our technical team and started building the communication. So I think the thing that I've learned over the years as a lecturer at university, working in field skills, being out in the communities doing research, is there's always a way to draw life experiences to the technology that we use every day. And as it becomes more complicated, it becomes more challenging. You become more of a professional expert on how to translate complexity into daily life. And that's really the only thing I'm good at, is figuring out how to explain the technology in somewhere that makes it useful for the things that we're doing every day. So with that, I'm going to punch through. We're going to have a quick conversation around what Copilot is, the advantages of using it, because I already heard in some conversations going around, some people are using their own AI. They're bring your own AI to work, and we'll talk a little bit about the challenges around that. I put 2 or 3 use cases in here just to kind of demonstrate what we can do. And then we'll talk a little bit about how you plan with your own work and the stuff that you do here that will allow the AI to support you in what you do every day. And then, we've got a little bit of time at the end. We'll jump in and I'll show you some actual prompting and demo so that you can see how I use it. Just so you're aware, I'd say about 90% of my talk tracks today I build using AI. It needs my expertise to make it fun and turn it into something that I deliver on a regular basis. And based on that, I'll show you how you do it. Because as a knowledge worker, I can assume here that 80% of the work you do is in some form of generation of content, review of content, and then drawing inferences and figuring out what to do next based on the knowledge work that you've already done. So that being said, this will be extremely powerful for you to be able to use. So a couple of quick things. How many people in the room are already using AI? Excellent. Can you throw a name of one of the AIs you're using? I promise you won't get in any trouble.
Gemini.
Copilot, Gemini. GPT, yeah. Anything else? Any Bards? Any Claudes? Any Perplexity? Eddie? Yeah, you got your own Eddie? Any Claudes? Any writers in the room that use Claude? Yeah? No? Good morning. Yeah, so there's lots of them out there. Copilot then became general availability from Microsoft April of last year. And during that time, prior to that, we had a lot of enterprise companies and technology companies utilizing it, testing it to make sure that it was functional. In my experience, I was one of those companies on the Microsoft Advisory Council that was supporting testing AI to see whether or not it did the things they said it was going to do and whether or not it was actually useful. And to be real, in November 2022, it wasn't particularly useful. ChatGPT was a lot more useful because it was open source, accessible, and they needed, and this is the tricky part, if you started using ChatGPT 2 years or 3 years ago, all the data you put into it, the reason it was free was because they needed you to train the model. So all the data you put into it over the last, I'd say 2 years prior to now, before they came out with the paid version for your own security, all the data around the world that people were putting into it, the requests that they were making, the reason it was free was because they needed you to train the model. So there's no such thing as a free lunch, as the old saying goes. So, if you started using it then, now you know. But Microsoft, though, a couple of the things that you want to keep in mind, and we want to talk about today, is because it comes back to the information that you own as an organization. And you want to be able to protect the information that you're using and that you're using the AI to reference over. So as soon as you take something from your internal server, your cloud space, the photos of your desk drawer, and you add it into any of the already named AIs that you're using, you've now broken the chain of security on your data. Now, I said you weren't going to get into trouble. You didn't know this already going in, so you weren't willingly taking data and sharing it with the internet. So every free version, just so you're aware, is using your data, with the exception of your M365 Copilot, because you're already in the ecosystem for Microsoft. Microsoft has already created a data governance solution that ensures that your data doesn't train the model. So we'll start there. Any questions in the room so far?
Where does the information go then?
Your Microsoft information stays in your tenant. Stays in your email, stays in your OneDrive, stays in your storage bin in your M365 cloud. So the data doesn't go anywhere, and we'll talk about that. So you've got single chat destination. How many people here know that Microsoft Copilot is the same large language model as ChatGPT? I do. Yeah, so Microsoft, and if I'm in the news all the time because this is my thing. So I don't expect you to have seen these articles because your algorithms won't give you these feeds. They'll only give you feeds and things relevant to your own respective work. But Microsoft and ChatGPT, the owners of OpenAI, they've been in partnership for 10 years. And when you think about that, they've already been planning this from since then. And Microsoft has the same large language model coding trained as ChatGPT. What they do, though, is they then take every new version in-house, they run it through their compliance, security, and testing before they launch it into the active Copilot network, because that's what everybody's using. So then it comes under Microsoft's compliance agreement with the end customer, yourselves, to make sure that your data is protected. So when we think about it, it's supposed to be your assistant. You're not supposed to lose any headcount when you get AI. You're actually supposed to be able to scale your operations and the work that you do due to having the AI. And I'll give you an example. How many people have ever walked to Toronto? I won't put my hand up. One. All the way from Calgary.
Oh, no, walked in Toronto
Walk from here to, no. Right? It would take you a few years, wouldn't it? Take you a few years. How many people have biked from Calgary to Toronto? No?
I have a brother who has.
Brother who has, see? So that's getting better. 1 degree of separation. How many people have driven from Calgary to Toronto? All right. Improving. How many people have flown? Okay. So what will we just demonstrate? That's 4 different types of technology that we as human beings have created. That what did it do? It allowed us access in the same amount of time or shorter from one destination to another. So I would say if you wanted to do something in an hour, you'd walk from here to probably Manning's office, right? Not too far away. If you wanted to do the same thing in an hour, you could drive from here to maybe, I don't know, the other side of Calgary. But let's say you wanted to go a little bit further, but in the same hour, you could fly from Calgary to, I don't know, Vancouver for an hour, right? Now that's what technology affords us. And because of that, when you think about how your AI is supposed to help you in your day-to-day, your AI is that version of technology where you now have a different equity level from where you're going to start with the work that you're doing. So instead of starting at 0, a blank sheet of paper and a pen, you start at 65%. You have an idea. You talk to the AI about the idea you have. You get some outputs that put you somewhere around 65 to 75%. And I say that because without training, there's no way for you to get from 0 to 65 communicating with an AI because it won't turn you into a superhuman, right? All it does is enhance your own abilities that you have already, okay? Like those beautiful crutches our friend was walking around with. Injured leg, pair of crutches, can now walk. It's assistance, support. It does not replace the leg. We still need the leg to get fixed, right? Thank you for the example. I appreciate it. So when you think about how it works, and we're going to punch through this really fast. Stop me, slow me down if it doesn't make sense. When we think about it, I'll put my pointer on the screen here. You've got your user experience as the ultimate place you want to be, okay? Nobody ever walks into a store and walks out because they had great customer service. You're happy. You buy more, you hang around, you get your questions asked, okay? When you think about your user experience with Copilot, we want it to be the same across all your devices, same experience across all the knowledge work that you're doing, and we want you to have the capability to trust the information that you get. So how it works is you've got a base of information that you've got in your Microsoft suite today or in your storage in your server. That information is your grounding information for your AI. It's the thing it will use to reference. All of us as human beings, we use information and experiences to reference the decisions we're going to make tomorrow. It's based on, well, 6 years ago I did this, this, and this. Based on that, this time around I'm going to do these 2 things and I'm going to take this away. And that's your experience, but it's also based on your core knowledge of that experience. And that's how we use the AI to make sure that you get that user experience coming out of it. So you've got your orchestrator. That's the thing that takes your data, your information, the questions that you have, and the foundation model that's trained to then spit out a good answer for you. And we'll see a little bit more of that as we move along. When we talk about trust and compliance, your data is your data. It stays within your environment. It doesn't go anywhere. The Copilot is internal to your environment. So think of it as a hired employee within your environment. Once they're internal, they have access to what you give them access to. If they don't have access to something, say I'm administration, but I don't have access to financial data, or I don't have access to RFPs, I will never see those and I will never use those. I won't reference them. The same thing happens with your AI, with your Copilot. And again, it can only see the information based on your security protocols you have set that allows you to see that same information. So if you can't see it, your AI can't see it. So this is a very big sticking point that I want to make sure you understand. If you do not have access to it, even if you inquire about it to your AI, it will return information that does not include things you don't have access to. Okay? Yeah. Now, this brings up a problem though, because the tighter security, the dumber your AI seems. Let me tell you why. So if you go and you put the same prompt into ChatGPT, publicly available information, ChatGPT will spit out a great answer for you. If you just got your Copilot and you put that same prompt into your Copilot, without your Copilot being trained, it's going to spit out a meh kind of answer. And the reason I want to bridge this really quickly is because people are going to be like, well, I use Gemini because it's easier and I get all the stuff that I want and it understands me. It's because you've been using it and training it. And 1 million other Google users have been using and training Gemini. Same goes for ChatGPT Public. So just think about it like this. If you walked in for the first time to any course, including this one, you need time to understand the concepts, build understanding on how to utilize it, before you could even get to your own use cases of how best it will support your job. And that's everything in the way we learn, okay? And the AI is built the same way. And because of that, the governance and compliance, security, and privacy is maintained within your M365. Okay, so I don't know if this is going to work, but let's play it and see.
Microsoft 365 Copilot is powered by what we call the Copilot system, a sophisticated processing and orchestration engine. It harnesses the power of 3 foundational technologies: the Microsoft 365 apps, that's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, and more. The Microsoft Graph, that's all your content and context, your emails, files, meetings, chats, and calendar. And a large language model, or LLM, a creative engine capable of parsing and producing human-readable text, all accessible through natural language. It starts with a prompt from you in an app. Copilot pre-processes the prompt through an approach called grounding. Put simply, grounding improves the quality of the prompt, so you get answers that are relevant and actionable. One of the most important parts of grounding is making a call to the Microsoft Graph to retrieve your business content and context. Copilot combines this user data from the graph with other inputs to improve the prompt. It then sends that modified prompt to the LLM. You may be familiar with what an LLM can do based on your experience with ChatGPT or Bing Chat. Copilot takes the response from the LLM and post-processes it. This post-processing includes additional grounding calls to the graph, responsible AI checks, security, compliance, and privacy reviews, and command generation. Finally, Copilot sends a response to the user and commands back to the apps. Copilot iteratively processes and orchestrates these sophisticated services to produce a result that feels like magic.
Okay, so no, I did not make that video with AI. Let's just answer that one. That's a Microsoft core team. Any questions on that?
Your guys' engine, you created it sort of to be ethical, like?
Yes, and. Yeah, the and part of that is it gets more ethical week to week, day to day, because believe it or not, people ask it to do dumb things on a regular basis. And it helps to highlight areas that the ethics review and the responsible use rules have missed. So as an example, you say, hey, I would like to write a book on, a short story on, and you could insert literally anything at the end of that. So the dossier of responsible utilization would be, well, if they say bomb or they say anything that would be harmful to humans, or they want to generate a poison or a pesticide or anything like that, or a book about how much we hate, I don't know, anything, presidents. It'll go and check and see whether or not that's ethically sound. And if it is, it'll come back and give you an answer. If it isn't, it'll start going through. And as it starts writing it, it'll be like, wait a second. Actually, all the data I'm finding on this seems controversial. I'm going to pause and give you an error and say, oops, sorry, I can't complete this conversation. Please move on to something else. Right? So it gets smarter as you use it as well. So you may be able to get away with something last week. But the more prompts and things that people use and the more information in your company that kind of helps it to understand the segregation or the privacy rules within your org data, it'll start getting smarter and shutting things down where people are trying to do things unethical. So as an example, if you ask your LLM, hey, Copilot, can you go ahead and show me the company financial data from last year, or the HR files for Sally, John, Patrick, or David? It'll be like, wait a second, are you HR? No. Should I check whether or not you have access to HR files other than your own? No. So, hey, sorry, if you want to talk about HR files, please go see this person in the organization. Right? So it'll learn about all of your data over time. And that's the power of bringing it internal, as opposed to taking a small bit of information out each time you'd like to do something and asking the LLM to support you. So in other words, using ChatGPT or Bard or something external to your network. Yes?
So I'm HR, and if I'm asked Copilot to do a search, maybe I want to know, what date, somebody left the organization or something like that. And it comes up with a response to that. Can anyone else ask that same question and get that same response?
They can ask the question, and if the response is, so again, a date someone left, hey, when did Patrick leave the organization? None of that's private information, as long as it's been tagged. But if they were like, hey, what was his exit package, or were there any HR violations as to why Patrick left, it would be like, yeah, no, I can't tell you that. So the other part of it too, this raises another point. If you query your Copilot does not see what you query in your Copilot, and thereby cannot learn from the data, and your Copilot doesn't learn from your Copilot. And it's individual. So it's like your OneDrive or your secret S drive, which everybody seems to have. Your role designates what you have access to, and by extension, your Copilot only has access to that, because it doesn't come in and do things. It comes in, it's hired to work for you, and it has access to what you have access to individually. Okay? And when we think about it, the whole shift in your mindset, because everybody wants me to come in and be like, hey, show me how AI can build a rocket ship. I was like, why? How many rocket ships have you built? Are you a rocket ship builder? No. Every event I go to, there's that one person that puts their hand up and said, well, it sucks at making PowerPoint. And I was like, great. Show me all your other PowerPoints. Well, I don't really use PowerPoint. So why are you asking it to build you a PowerPoint? Stop doing that. Stop doing that. Think about your own job. Think about the work that you do day to day. Think about the things you absolutely hate doing and you procrastinate until the last 3 minutes before you have to clock out on Friday. And you're like, oh, I want to do this report now. Think about that. And think about how the AI can support you in completing that report as far as possible before you need to get interaction with it again. Okay? And it's a difference in mindset, because today we're doing rote tasks. Everybody's reading emails. How many people have actually been in an off-grid situation where it looks like that, and for you to get information, or it looks like that, I'm pretty much like that one. For you to get information, someone has to bike, walk, run, boat, canoe, 20 miles, takes 3 days for you to get communication from the village down the river, and then this person has to stay there, rest for a couple of days, eat, sleep, paddle 3 hours back. I've been in those situations a lot. Fun, a lot of fun, very great. But everything takes a long time. Takes a long time. It's like dial-up. Right? Yeah, we're having a conversation about that. You know how the British think they're like at the forefront of technology? I went to England in 2008. I'm from South America. We had broadband 128 kilobytes, not even gigs, it's kilobytes, KBS. I get to England and they had dial-up, 56 and 24. I was like, what madness is this? You're the Queen's country. How do you not have broadband? But thankfully, they rolled it out while I was there. The point is, though, from a technology perspective and from a utilization perspective, we all have these rote tasks that we have to do every day. Answer the email every Thursday. That's preparation for the Thursday afternoon meeting. And I've got to go back and look at what I did last week and look at any changes I need to make. And then I cut and paste it. And then I forget to paste the right name. So I turn up in the meeting with the name for PSICORP, but it's really Sherweb. Right? Like, how many times do we oops on that one? Or somebody sends you a file and they're like, oh, I've got version V6 R10 final. When we think about how we're going to use our brain power, we want to turn the AI to doing all those rote tasks, which will do two things. One, it'll help you finish it faster, make you saner. And two, it'll take out some of the human error that we're doing, because the machine will just follow the instructions and do the thing exactly as is. But what we want to do is we want to take all the road stuff that's taking away our attention, and we want to do the fun stuff. So we want to shift our perspective to using our brains to do the cool stuff, right? When we think about how we're going to use it, as a scientist, the one thing I hated the most in my research publications was having to put together the bibliography. How many people know what a bibliography is?
That's the worst.
Right? It's like, oh yeah, let me put John et al. 1923 paper, blah, blah.
Period, comma.
And then you start shortening the scientists' names, the more of them that they're there. So you start out with the first person's name. It's like when you read the ingredients on a ketchup packet. Tomatoes, water. The further to the right you go, the less contribution it made. So with your scientists, by the time you get to the end, there's just initials. And then after that, there's initials with no periods in between it. Oh, that person did nothing. But you still have to put their name. And it took forever. Today, I can do a full research analytical paper in AI on a topic that I have no idea about and garner all of the references that have been checked to make sure they're accurate. And then I can go read the paper, click the references for further information, and then use my own expertise to improve what I know. And all of that takes me under 15 minutes.
What? Say that again?
Yeah. So I can write an entire research paper on a topic that I don't have all the information on, that will come complete with bibliography,
Footnoting?
links. It comes with everything.
No.
Footnotes, bibliography links, tested and verified resources,
Based off the information you put in.
based off of the questions I've asked it. Yes, and you can do this. You can also use it to compare documentation.
Why did my university not tell me about this?
Well, you know, it's one of those things, right? They didn't build it yet. So a couple of the things, and I say revenue here, but think about your funding. Think about your, the quarter, 3 months before your board of directors meeting, where you have to present your next fiscal year plan. You've got your OPEX and your CAPEX, and you need to put in all your investments so that you know they're going to shoot a bunch of stuff down. Throw that stuff in the AI and ask it for rebuttals so that you're prepared when they ask the questions. I don't know if the person that presents to the board's in here, but optimizing from your cost perspective. You're a nonprofit. When you think about how you spend your donated funds and your government funds, you want to put as little as possible to overhead and admin. So when you think about that so that you get the most out of your utilization for your funds, I might know a thing or two. You want to optimize on your total cost structure in your operations. So you get most of the value to the people you're trying to help with your funds, right? And then your employees. Like, let's just think about it for a second. Just think about the amount of work that you could do. If I could do an entire research paper that typically took me 2 weeks of reading, writing, and arithmetic in 15 minutes, because I understand the concept of what I'm looking for from an output perspective, I could spend 15 minutes generating it, and I can spend an entire 2 days procrastinating, reading it, and verifying the data, and it would still be 60% faster than doing it the old way. Which means I could do 2 research papers and go on vacation and you wouldn't know. Very important. This is how I get to go to Calgary and do stuff. So when we think about how you start with your AI, a lot of you have used it already. I'm not going to say you're using it wrong. I'm just saying you've been using it how everybody uses technology today, right? You walk into a place and they said, look, we have this amazing remote control for you to turn on and off all the things in your house that are connected to Wi-Fi. Great. You pick up the remote control and you turn on one thing. It says you have to program the rest. You decide you're not going to do that. You keep walking around the house with the remote in your hand, turning stuff on and off. That's using new technology the old way we worked, right? Somebody's done this in the room. Oh boy, how did I know that example? So when you think about how you're going to use it though, you've got all these jobs in an organization. This is a general org. It's not necessarily yours. But you've got your HR, you've got your legal, you've got finance for sure, and you've got IT. All of those people have one thing in their job right now that they spend 2 hours a week doing that they don't want to do, right? Nor do they want to spend 2 hours a week doing it. If you can think about that one thing in your job and look at how the AI can support you in getting that thing done in 15 minutes, imagine how much happier you're going to be as an employee. Right? You don't have to imagine. You're already using a bunch of stuff, which is good. So when we think about it from a KPIs by function now, because we have to measure what we're doing, And we have to measure it for the investors, the government, the community members. Take your processes by function. What do? What does the process look like? You have to have a clear understanding of that. Like I said, it's not going to turn you into an expert in anything. You have to have what your secret sauce is as an individual and bring it, and it will amplify that. When you think about it by function for your KPIs now, what are the things that I'm actually measuring, the performance indicators that showcase that we are getting our work done? We implemented a methodology, we ran it for X amount of time, here's the total output. When you think about your jobs and you label your functions, how you're doing, what you've done, what you're going to do in the future, you want to think about those functions, and you want to think about them within any of them, whether it's finance outsourcing spend, cost analysis, compliance rate, whether you're in legal and you're looking for number of disputes you've got, or you're signing new agreements with producers or suppliers. In HR, total cost for employees, first call to resolution rate for issues and challenges, employee retention. I know if I came to work and my email was at only the email that came in, say Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock because I don't work past 4 o'clock, and that's what I'm fixing on Monday morning and not emails from 3 weeks ago, I'd have a better work-life balance and I'd be much more motivated to come in and get my work done. Okay? So we're going to look at 3 use cases, just kind of expand on a few of them first. And we love HR because if HR is unhappy, guess what? Everybody's unhappy. Yeah? Gotta like HR policies. So we're gonna dig into this, and again, we've tried to make these examples as broad as possible, and then you fill in your day-to-day, okay? And when we think about it, like you've got a key process, employee engagement, recruiting, compensation benefits. So I do recruitment for my team. I'm in a larger company, I do recruitment for my team. And I publish a position, and 300 people apply, submit their resumes. I'm like, great. Ask me how many resumes I've read.
2.
That's not a question, but I appreciate you participating. I pick the top 5 usually, top 5. But how do I get to the top 5? I wrote what I call a ideal candidate profile, right? Everybody knows what, I see some head nodding. Here's what I want the person to do. Here are the skills that they need to have. Here's how I want them to function in the job. This is what success looks like. I have those 4 things, and they've got a few bullet points under each. And then I give it to the AI, and I say, okay, based on this, for job X, please go find me the top 5 resumes that match the job. But a little bit more than that, tell me what key aspects in the resumes you used to select them. And then draft for me 3 to 4 questions that are specific to each of those resumes that I should ask to test their experience or test their fit for the job. It's 1 prompt. Do this, this, and this. It goes and it reads the 300 emails, the 300 resumes. It comes back with the top 5. It gives me a summary of each of them and why. And then it gave me my questions that I should ask based on their experience. Now, ask me how long that took me to do. Come on, I say 5 minutes. You know, I ask an actual question. Come on, 5 minutes. It took me 5 minutes. It took me 5 minutes because I'd already written the job description and I knew what I was looking for. And then you still go back and check, right? Good practice would be to give me the first 5, give me your next 5, and then give me your third 5, because you have 300. Right? So give me 5 for every 75. That would also give you 5, so you have 25 candidates. Right? And then you can look at that and whittle down your candidates based on that. But it all comes down to your expertise and what you want to do, which is why the AI can't take your job. Now that being said, it will make you very good at your job, in addition to your skills. It's an uplift, right? It's like you running a race but having bionic legs. Like, it's cheating. Which part?
AI cannot take your job.
Cannot take your job. You want to bet? I'll go unplug your Wi-Fi right now. See if any of your AI works.
I can't do my job then.
Right?
Everybody will be coming screaming, man,
Let's not create any problems for anyone in the room. Okay, so when we think about how you look at this from an example perspective, in terms of requests, if you can do everything that you're doing today 25 or 26% faster, what does that look like for the people receiving your service or receiving your information or receiving your help? They feel like you're getting it faster because they are. When you think about how you reduce your total inquiry volume, hey, excuse me, what's up with the Wi-Fi? This is the agent of HR that says, Wi-Fi's fine, it'll reboot in 3 minutes. Stop asking. What's the vacation policy? How many days do I have left? When did Patrick actually leave and why? All of these are questions that they can ask, that they can get an auto response from, because they can ask the HR, they can ask Copilot, and Copilot access to the HR manual, or the effective use policy for devices, etc. You label it, you give it the information, it's trained on that, and that's what you get. Yeah? Okay. I wave my hands around a lot, so just tell me. Okay, is there a legal arm, or do you work with a legal organization that supports you? I love how they're still looking at you. So it's all still under HR. So, how many people think it's a good idea to have HR do law? I feel like everybody here except your one friend next to you. I think you should take her out for lunch. Same scenario though. When you think about legal, as long as you understand which province you're in and what precedents are set, you can ask to validate information that you get, right? And this is about comparing documents and making sure that the lawyer speak sounds regular when you read it. This can help you to do that. When we think about it, it comes back to the same thing. Because it is knowledge work, it's how fast can you do it, how accurate are you going to be, and will it actually cause a problem once you publish it? Which, again, if you're not a lawyer, please don't do any legal stuff and tell people yes. Think about finance. Who's a finance person in here? Oh, I forgot, they're hiding out. They're running payroll today. You know what they could have done? They could have done payroll at 2 o'clock today and still be done by 3 if they had AI. I would verify it though. I would definitely verify it. Yeah? Probably using AI right now and just catching up on episodes, to be honest. Who knows? I never said that. Didn't know. Let's think about your finance. What are a couple of things that our friend who's no longer here capable of coming here today because they have to do payroll, what are some of the things that they have to do in month-end reconciliation, etc., that stops them from having the time to do stuff like this? Any other examples in the room? I mean, they're all on the board. I'm kind of cheating. They put a bullet period or a comma in the wrong place. An invoice comes in French and the comma's in the wrong place when it translates to English. All of these things happen in human error. They do analyses on how much expenses have come in, what have we used our expenses on, because our reporting needs to validate the total cost on operations versus services provided versus training. And they're putting all of this together and they're reconciling sheets and they know a bunch of, pivot tabling and all the above. This won't help them to learn more of those things. What it will do though is do it with higher accuracy. And instead of them putting in the new VLOOKUP or whatever, they can get the AI to just run the code that they want and give them the output that they want because they can validate it instead of doing the actual rote tasks. Okay? Very important. Very important. And when you think about, because ROI always comes up, especially in cost-controlled organizations and nonprofits. Have you ever tried doing research on a budget? Yeah? Okay. All right, you'll have to tell me more about that. When you go out, they give you 20 grand and they expect you're going to make it all the way from Calgary to Toronto and back. And during that time, still eat, sleep, write all the stuff up, speak with the people you need to speak with, etc. Do all the research. So what are you going to do? I spent 2 weeks on a boat. And I say a boat, but it's really a canoe in the jungles of the Amazon of South America. And that 3-day paddling story, legit, 100% true. Paddle village 1 to village 2. There's no refrigeration, minimal solar electricity, you name it. So if I carry anything in cans, it's too heavy because I've got to lift the boat and I can call it portaging in Canada. There we just call it moving your boat over the log. You got to be able to carry it. Camp out, carry it, and you can't carry too much stuff. You're weak on the river. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to catch fish, blah, blah, blah. But you need some supplements. You know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So I ate peanut butter and jelly for a week straight. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How'd I do it? One time it was jelly, 2 layers of peanut butter on the outside and the bread. Then one time it was bread in the middle, peanut butter on the outside. You get some variations going, but at the end of the day, you're doing it on a shoestring budget, right? Because you want to spend most of the money on the stuff you're going to do in the village and the research. When you take this and you optimize your costs, and you can spend more of the money not wasting your 1 billable hour of time in research, then you can get more out of your research. This will help you to understand which cost structure to take, how to do your reporting. Make sure that you actually have budget for food. Because if you don't turn back up, the research goes nowhere anyway. I've done that on too many occasions too. So biology is not cheap, to be honest. So impact-wise, accelerate impact, 50%. Payroll will be done by lunch. Right, it's half a day. Reduce costs overall, 10 minutes per activity in Excel. Right, so you want to keep thinking about this. So I've only given you 3 examples, but just keep in mind, this is just to help you to think about, oh, I should go back and think about my job, and what could I do with the AI that would allow me to save, let's start with 1 hour a week, so that you could actually not have to do that report at 4 p.m. on Friday. And then once you become more proficient, turn that 1 hour a week into maybe 2 hours a week. Because you've optimized one area of your job, do the other area. Just think about it. If you work, 37 hours a week, 40, and you could take away 4 hours of that, you could spend more time with your team, you could do some training, your own professional development, you could finish next week's work, go on vacation. You could come back from vacation and not open your computer and dread the rest of your life because you've got 1,800 emails from the 2 weeks you decided to take off, right? Because vacation is really do your work and suffer when you come back. That's how you define vacation, right? And this is where the challenge comes. Our imagination, because we're so focused on our everyday work, our imagination isn't blooming on what we could do, what we should be doing. And there was an earlier slide where I said you have to change your frame of mind. There's a square with a square, or you could be a diamond on the side doing the high-value mental tasks versus the rote tasks that you're doing on a repeat basis day to day. Yeah? Very important. This will be provided to you. These links are clickable. But there's an entire scenario library of upwards of 300 examples that you could go in and make bespoke to your job function. So if you're in finance, well, are you payroll? Are you expenses? Are you this? Are you that? These resources are available to you so that you can go through and look at other examples, ask questions, and continue your training and development. There's an implementation guide, an adoption guide, a user enablement guide. So this is one-to-one. This is all for end users. Yeah. And technical readiness. I say technical readiness because if you try to do your AI on a really old computer, you're going to get less than optimal responses. It'll be slow, it'll be glitchy, etc., because you need compute power to make sure that you can use it. So you also want to make sure that your technology is up to date so that you can use the new tech and software. Okay, so adoption and change management. How many people would like to use Copilot today that are not using it? Who's not using it today? Yeah, throw your hands up. There's free Copilot, just like ChatGPT, that has the same enterprise-grade data protection as your paid Copilot because you would log in with your company email address to your web browser. So if you go to Copilot, I love it, old school, books and things. We don't have any computers in here. But if you were to go to copilot.com and use the free version in Microsoft Edge or Chrome, still loads, you'll be able to do everything that you do with ChatGPT without having a user license yet. You won't be able to use it in your applications. You won't be able to use it in Microsoft Word and Excel and the like because it's external. It's still outside, even though it has the same data protection. When you paste stuff in there, it won't use your data. Okay? So you could try it out, get familiar, train, and then once you realize, okay, I'm at the point where I know to use it well enough externally, like how I was using Gemini or Bard or ChatGPT, now I need a license so that I can do it on my computer with my applications, my Word, my PowerPoint, my read legal documents in PDF, etc. Okay? And you want to start by using it, use the free version, get accustomed to it, and then elevate yourself and prioritize your training. There isn't a single thing as human beings, including walking and standing upright, that we did not take a long time to learn. So if you were one of those people that were under the assumption that you could open an AI and just be like, I know how to do this, you are incorrect. Just think about it like walking, learning to ride a bike, or skating. It is a talent that you must train. Okay? Very important. Yes. And prompting, it's interesting that we call it prompting because we want to separate it from human communication. Yes. Right? If I wanted to work on something with either of you here, I would come to you and have a conversation. That would be me prompting you if you were an AI. Right? But you're human to human, so we call AI conversations prompting, and then on the human side we call it conversation. And when we think about it, the reason I'm drawing that parallel is because if you speak to your AI in prompting brain and forget that you need to set context and set output recommendations of what you want to see, it's going to be wrong all the time. Same goes for you. Same goes for me. If I were working here and you came up to me and gave me an instruction and you only gave me part of an instruction, go make a video. Sweet. I go away. I come back with a video because I filled in the rest myself. It's going to be a cat video. It's going to have angels flying. Maybe a shopping cart. And then I come back and I was like, here you go. You're going to take one look at that and you'll be like, you're fired.
You're fired. This sucks.
Right? You know why? Because I didn't ask any questions, one. And two, you gave me very vague instructions. So when we think about conversations, right? And when you think about, we call it prompting and iteration. In human speak, we call it conversation and questions. Same thing, okay? Draw that parallel because it's important. And we'll see a few of those in a second. And for your business outcomes, you've got board meetings. You've got financial planning to do. You've got programs that you're writing and resurfacing and republishing and reviewing and updating. Somebody somewhere is doing a lot of cut and pasting. That stuff you could feed in, have templates created, and then have those templates and the information filled in for each new calendar year, et cetera, et cetera. One of the functions, the friendship centers I supported in tech, every year they had this structure that someone would have to go in for 2 weeks and sit down and stop last year's structure, replicate, and start the current year structure. And then they would freeze that in time for reporting and et cetera, et cetera. Every year, 10 years going, until we created records management in SharePoint, and the record management would manage the wireframe and update everything for 2025 and 2026 automatically, because the data tagging was in place and automation was in place thanks to the technology. So that's the kind of stuff you want to be thinking about when you look at how it can help and impact the organization. We talked about the scenario library already. There's tons of scenarios in there. Please, when you're ready, go take a look. You don't need to wait on me. This is my contact information. I'm on LinkedIn and things. Feel free to ping me for questions. 90% of the time, it will be an AI-generated response. But you won't know. Because there's 5% of the time I'll actually be there. So be nice, because you won't know who's responding to you. I'm kidding. I actually respond to all of them. But the questions here, I'll tell you, if you go through the content and your mind is now open from a perspective of you can't unhear what I've said and you can't unsee the context that we've set in the room. So when you go away from here, even if you're like, oh, that guy was full of nonsense, I'm never doing any of that, the very next thing you do is now impacted by the information your brain has. Yeah? No matter what you do. But yeah, this has been amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Appreciate it.